Up here in San Antonio Bay, reefs, 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 reefs. Get on your reefs, hard packed sand, all these areas here. Chicken Foot that's up in here. This little bird island that's over on the other side over here. You got a bunch of reefs that are all back up in San Antonio Bay, and that's where you really need to be if you want to fish up in this particular area. Get around these reefs, locate them, find them, get on them, walk the edge, the drop edge on one side, the tapered edge on the other side. If you got 2, 3, 4 people where you can really spread yourselves out and work up and down these shorelines or these reefs that are all out in San Antonio Bay, that's going to give you your best opportunity. You know, super low tides for the past 3 weeks plus has been a key thing that's been taking place. Of course, you know, we've had temperatures that's been in the low 90s, water temps been in the upper 80s, so it just doesn't lend itself to be really great fishing conditions unless it's really early or if you're going to fish at nighttime. Middle of the day is not great. Late afternoon is tough. You can locate some fish here or there, but it's just not very consistent other than consistently tough or difficult and bad in some situations, depending on where you are. Bait's not a problem. There's tremendous amount of bait in a lot of these estuaries that we're working in and working on and around. But early morning for your trout bite, it's still been the same thing. It's been still taking place, pre 6ish in the morning, 5:45, 6, 6:30ish, something would be on the water throwing your baits by that time frame. If you can carry a major or minor into that time frame, then you can extend your bite in the morning. But it's been pretty consistent. Any place that I've been fishing, it's been pretty much by 9:30, 10 o'clock. The trout side of it, bite-wise, has been pretty much done. Anything beyond that, you're scratching to try to get these fish to eat something. They're just not really interested in that with the water temps the way that they are. Then, of course, we've had high pressure in place on top of that, and then super low tides on top of that. So it's just been a trifecta of things that make catching difficult in lots of these areas. But the thing that you have to put together is you still have to have a game plan in place. You still have to approach each area with a positive mindset that you can find and catch fish in these areas. Again, just have a versatility of baits with you, depending on what your water clarity is. I know up here in San Antonio Bay, in some of these areas, the water clarity has been very good. The watercolor's been really good, especially around the reefs, and that's where we've been locating majority of our trout anyway. Some of the redfish, they've been scattered out, shorelines, edges, not so much on the reefs out there. Of course, some black drum around some of those areas. Main baits that we're using, we've been throwing the original size down south and the burner shad size in the down south. Of course, in the knock and tail, it's been the 4-inch standard one, the greenbacks, heavy metal, rogue. Those have been the main ones that we've been throwing during that time frame. We're in the transition phase. We're just left out of a new moon, which was pretty good. The bite frames around that were pretty good, not bad. Consistently, considering what the conditions are and what we've had the last few weeks, it was fairly good. Now we're in the transition days, headed toward a full moon. So you really probably want to extend that like you already into that full moon and just kind of go with your smaller size profile baits just to see if you can be consistent with that. That's been just a little bit of a theme for us that 3.5 to 4-inch bait has been pretty good as far as consistency goes. And it's not one particular bait that's been great, but there's been several in that size and profile that have been pretty good. So just kind of take that and just kind of use that in what you want and wherever it is that you're going to fish, whether it's up in the San Antonio Bay area, Aransas Bay area, Corpus Christi Bay, whatever. Just kind of use that mindset or that profile size to see if you can consistently find and catch you some fish and these types of things. Other baits we've been throwing has been the Marker 54 jerk shrimp. It's been pretty good. Top water bait occasionally has been okay. Super early, if you're going to throw that, right at dawn, should I say, it's been okay. Once that sun pops over that horizon, it starts hitting that water. That top water bite pretty much dies pretty quick. If you want to stick with it, you might be able to scratch you one out here or there, but it's been pretty much the plastics game has been what's been working best for us in lots of these waters here. 16th ounce jig heads, still been the same thing that we've been throwing. especially right now, we want that bait to stay in that water column for as long as we possibly can get it there. Finding fish pushed up against the reefs and the shoreline edges like that. It's been like that early in the morning. Again, lots of bait that's up there. We found, like I say, scattered redfish here or there. Trout's been okay. Lots of little ones still. And if you catch 8 or 9 14s to 16s, and then you'll scratch one out that's about 17 and a half, 18 and a half, somewhere along in there. And that's about as good as it's been for us anyway, or at least for me it has been. So until we can get something that's going to kind of change what our water levels are and what our water temps are, you're going to continue to have to work, and you may struggle on some days, but just stay with it and be positive about it. Front side of mud. All up here, you got some great grass beds that are deeper. You got some edges that are out here. So if you fished out on this front side of mud, you know exactly where I'm talking about. You're about 150 yards off the shoreline. You got a nice little grass line that's out there that comes up shallow, and then you got drop-offs on either side on the front and the back of it. Bait, again, has not been an issue in this area. Nice hard-packed sand. You got a little scattered shell here and there. And again, with our tides being as low as what they've been this year, this time of year, we've had negative tides. So that really brings some of these areas out here in play. You can get out to some little deeper holes that you would not have been able to do when we have a normal tide. But right now, with those negative tides that we've had and been pushed, it kind of opens that up for you. Some of these areas, they've been holding some decent trout. Again, you still have to work for them, still having to really pay attention to what you're doing with your trout bite, because again, by 9:30, 10 o'clock, the trout bite's pretty much done, and we're hunting redfish after that if we hadn't already caught some in between that. There have been some redfish that's been kind of running up and down the shoreline, but they've been really close to the shoreline edges, and that's where we found and caught some of those. Trout have been out a little bit deeper over the grass, a little bit deeper grass edges, deeper holes, cuts, guts, especially with the tides being what they are. Those have been some main points of emphasis for us that we have targeted and looked at and fished and been somewhat productive on that. So just kind of take that with a grain of salt and kind of work these areas. Same thing out here over toward Allen's Bight on the shoreline here on the other side of the ranch house, all the way up there to the point of Allen, all the way down the shoreline. All great areas that you can fish. You got deeper grass in some of these, and they've paid off for us. Again, the primary baits that we've been using in these things have been the 4-inch and the burner shad and the down south in a multiple different flavors. Not any one particular one has been just stellar for us, so we've tried a lot of different flavors. Twisted Tea, Big Papa's been probably the main ones. Chicken of the Sea, White Ice is kind of starting to come on a little bit, but nothing that's just super great. Trying to match what your water clarity has been kind of the main thing. Soft Dines has been okay. Working that, just the smaller version of that, working that over the deeper grass beds and just allowing that thing just to kind of wobble down over the top of that grass and just kind of ripping it. We've gotten some good results with that as well. The topwater bait up against the shoreline has been pretty good. All that area. Again, once the sun pops, topwater bite pretty much is done. So if you're going to throw that, you want to throw that when it's still somewhat dark. So they really, because the fish are up in there shallow feeding, trying to get onto some bait that's there, and the water's still just a tad bit cooler than it would be. But as soon as that sun starts rising, they start receding out to that deeper water. So just kind of keep that in mind with what you're doing. Again, 16th ounce jig heads is the main things that we're chunking with, working that bait all through there. Again, the knock and tail, same 3 colors, heavy metal, greenback, rogue, all been pretty good. Not one better than the other, but all, if you've got them all, throw them in there. Even the White Ice has been pretty good. Marker 54, the jerk shrimp, just free lining that across the deeper grass beds has yielded some decent fish for us. And even getting some of the potholes back in some of the back lakes back in Allen's and some of those lakes back there, just working those down the edges of the shoreline. We've caught some redfish on those, so it's been pretty good. So, if you stay patient and just understand what the conditions are, and it's going to be difficult, and already get that in your head that it's going to be tough, and just stick with it, you'll find some fish and you'll catch some fish, and you'll reward yourself for your persistence to stick to it. That's really what it's going to take. Like I say, we're almost done with July. We've got August coming. It's still going to be another difficult month for us, especially if it stays in the same temperatures and what we are right now. It's going to be tough. So, again, just find those little positive points and just work those and stick with those to find your fish. Newcomb Shoreline, Newcomb Bend, Newcomb Point, this whole edge up here, good hard packed sand that's in here, some scattered shell. You've got some guts that are in this area here. You've got some grass that's in there. Tremendous amount of bait working there. We've had some lighter winds in the mornings, lower tides, so you'll be able to work this shoreline pretty far out, further than what we've typically been able to do, and it's yielded some fish for us. Again, water temps are extremely warm, and these fish, they're wanting to stay where it's comfortable for them. So early mornings, if you're out there early enough, when it's somewhat still dark that you barely can see, probably the sun starting to just barely come over the clouds and stuff, great location to get into these things right here, because you can throw your top water up against that shoreline there and get some opportunities. But you're throwing your plastics with the 16th ounce, you can get up there, water still a tad bit cooler than it would be later in the morning, so you have some opportunities there, especially with the amount of bait that's working there. The points, the deeper water that's around the points, coming around into the bend and down in here in the corner all the way up toward Holiday Beach. All that's been a great thing. It's been scattered. You got shell. Again, with the lower tides, some of these little back lake mouths, fishing out on the edge of them, that's the deeper edge to those, it's been pretty good. Stuff that's back up in there, you might find a redfish tailing back in there. If you're careful, you can maybe catch one or whatever. But it's going to be early, middle of the day, late morning, early afternoon. It's going to be virtually impossible to get these fish to really want to eat. If you're throwing, possibly if you're throwing bait, live or cut, that you might do okay. But as far as the artificial game goes, it's going to be extremely difficult early morning. If you like to fish at night, that's another option for you, especially if you like to flounder gigs. So put your, get in some areas that you can be safely, you can wade some of that area. You have a headlight or something like that. Fish are predominantly night feeders anyway, especially when a transition phase we're into right now as we head toward a full moon. Those are things that you need to take in consideration. Water's cooler at nighttime. If you're able to do that, then hey, I'd encourage you to do it. Give it a shot anyway. That's going to give you your best opportunity if you're not fishing early in the morning. Early morning game has been specifically shell, hard packed sand, grass areas, any area around there that that, whether it's in Copano, Aransas, Corpus Christi, whatever, St. Charles Bay, it doesn't matter. As long as you got some areas like that's got that type of structure and you got some food source that's working around there, you're going to have some opportunities. It may not be as many as what you would like, but right now that's just what we have to contend with the conditions that we have been given the last few weeks. Lower tides, higher temperatures, higher pressures in place, so it's made everything more difficult. Again, say the 3 toughest months, June, July, and August for artificial. We've just about got 2 of those tough ones completed, and probably the toughest of the 3 is coming. So hopefully we'll get some type of rain system that comes in here and kind of helps us out with as far as temperature and water that will help, and then maybe some type of some water push that we'll get in here to help give us some fresh water back into our bay system, since we have been so low with that for quite some time. So that's just one of those other things that just kind of adds to the whole puzzle. Again, it's a puzzle that you got to figure out every day, so the puzzle's pretty tough right now. But there are some fish that you can catch. They are there. Patience, persistence, that's the 2 main things that you really got to have right now to be able to catch you some fish. Just be consistent. Consistently work it. Consistently hang on to those types of things. Again, the main things that we've got and what's going on as far as your down south baits in the burner shad, original size, knocking tails, again, the same thing, jerk shrimp, soft dines, all been pretty good. Little johns, even throw those into the mix as well. Just something a little bit different each and every time. So as you continue to work these areas, again, just be patient with it. You'll find some fish and you'll pull out a keeper here or there, but just stick with it and continue to work.